Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third edition of Bank to the Future Live. Great to be here. Hopefully, we're getting third time in. We're getting our systems going and the technology is working okay. So I'll start in the same way, which is, could you please just give us a shout in the live chat? We've got Famida moderating as usual. If you can hear me okay, or point out any challenges you think. Then please do use the live chat, because I'm just going to keep talking and assume everybody can hear me, unless Famida interrupts me, and she'll probably only know if you let her know in the live chat. So we really appreciate that, so that we can do this as smoothly as possible. I am currently in my hotel, and I am on the way to Hong Kong. I've got a series of speaking events in Hong Kong. It is Hong Kong Blockchain Week. And it seems like it's one of those weeks where the whole crypto community is gathering over in Hong Kong. I've been invited to speak at 5 different events over the next few weeks, and I'm going to stay in Hong Kong for that period, and perhaps we'll go out and visit some of our clients, perhaps in South Korea or China, some of our connections out there. So that's my movements for the next 3 or so weeks. And if any of you are going to be at Hong Kong Blockchain Week, I'm speaking at, it's a bit confusing really, there's so many different events. I've been asked to speak at the BlockPass Securities Token Meetup. I think there's something going on with OKX as well. They're doing some kind of meetup. One of the main events, 2 events as part of Hong Kong Blockchain Week, and then later the Token 2049 event. So I'll be speaking at all of those on investing in the crypto sector, securities, tokens, and just general updates on what's happening in the market in general. So in this episode of Bank to the Future Live, we are going to be taking your questions again, as usual. And I'm going to go through a few points, and that is that as our secondary market is progressing deeper and deeper into beta, for those of you that are here for the first time, the first episode of Bank to the Future Live, you can go back to it on YouTube. What I'm going to do is quickly share my screen so that I can show you. And right now you should see the infinite screen, and hopefully now it goes over to the Bank to the Future YouTube channel. So you're probably watching on YouTube right now, and underneath this video somewhere, you should see this subscribe button. If you hit that subscribe button, and then also make sure you hit this bell here. If this bell is actually checked, then YouTube will send you an email every time Bank to the Future goes live, so that you don't miss a thing, because we're going to be planning to do many more of these in the future. But if you go back to our video section, you'll notice a whole load of videos. And I think this is the first episode of Bank to the Future Live, one of these. I think that's the second one. And in the first one, we went through an overview of all the products, and we just sent out a recording. I believe the team sent that out. And in the second one, we went deeper into, what did we cover? I can't even remember now. But it was a follow-on from the first one. Oh yeah, we went through the roadmap, everything we said that we were going to do since we did the token sale in 2018, some of the things we achieved, some of the things we didn't achieve, and what the new roadmap looks like. So just as a recap, if you Google BF token, we went through step by step on all the different things in the roadmap, what we did, what we didn't do, and why, and what the new roadmap actually looks like. Today, I'd like to focus more on the secondary market and a couple of questions that came up that led to our team creating some additional FAQs. So what would be great is if you either use our Telegram group or the live chat for future broadcasts, to let us know some of the things that you maybe are confused with as a client of Bank to the Future. Maybe you're somebody trying to see that's tried to raise funding through our platform, or most likely you're an investor that's looking to build a portfolio in the growth of the fintech and crypto industry. And maybe you were confused by some of the things. And what we'll do is we'll start to build out a more stronger FAQ and perhaps cover some of those questions in one of our live broadcasts. And for those of you that don't make it to the live broadcast, maybe we'll use our FAQ section to cover some of those sections. So today, I'm going to go a bit deeper into some of the things that we've got coming up in the secondary market, and how we've just released a new feature for those of you that are BFT token holder premium members of BnkToTheFuture.com, and what that actually is going to entitle you to as somebody that is a premium member by holding a minimum of 10,000 BF tokens on either your BnkToTheFuture.com account or a BF wallet, which is available for download on iOS or Android, that you have connected to your BnkToTheFuture.com account. And also I want to jump into a new FAQ that we realized some people were confused by, so we tried to clarify this a little bit more. And hopefully you can see my screen right now. Famida, could you give me a shout if everyone can see my screen? Okay, if you can see that.
Yeah, I definitely can. Just
okay. If you can, everyone else can, I think.
Yeah, everyone can. Yeah.
And that was this question, one of the very simple questions, which is who can actually use BnkToTheFuture.com. So I just want to go through that slightly. And it's really, your feedback is really appreciated, because we posted this in the Telegram community group. And we notice things that we just don't notice because we're so close to the product and so close to everything. And, you know, so what we've done here is we've given an overview of who can actually use the BnkToTheFuture.com product. And why that is, because we have to comply with securities laws, and securities laws all around the world restrict certain people from taking risk in such an asset class as private equity. And everything that we do is registered, you know, is we do securities. And therefore there's only certain types of investors can invest in this. And anytime that changes by a country's securities law, then we will update our process accordingly to remain compliant with that. But I just wanted to go through some of these definitions to help people understand. So we've broken this little matrix up here, which we just launched on the platform today, into the different types of investors. Now, we break it into three main categories. The first category is where you are resident, where you reside, where you live, or where you are a citizen. And based upon where you currently reside or where you are a citizen, it determines which securities laws we need to maintain compliance with when you're investing through our platform. The second is whether you're verified or not. So you could go to our platform right now, you can sign up, and one of the first things you need to do is actually get yourself verified. So here's an account we're using for the purpose of this. And if you go to the account section, you'll notice that there's these different sections. You can edit your profile. And if you go here onto the private details, that's where you can actually verify your account. For verification, we require two things. Firstly, all of, you know, some of the details that we ask, but two documents. One is a proof of residential address. And that must be either English or translated into English if it's a foreign document in your country. And it must be 3 months recent. And depending on your residency, we may need to periodically review that at times and get an updated one to remain compliant with some of our anti-money laundering obligations. And also your ID document. Now, to be safe, most people should upload a passport, but if you don't have access to a passport, then there are other identity documents that we do accept. And if you're doing a national ID card, please remember to create one document with the front and back of that document. And the same for a driver's license, which are the main photo identity documents. But to be safe, we recommend passport is the one that is most likely to get through the process. And then the second main thing, so that's what we refer to when we say verified. And by verified, we mean that both your proof of address document and your photo ID have actually been first submitted, and secondly, verified and match the details that you've put on your account as that you've given us. The second thing is certification. Now, with certification, we break it down into three main categories. One is that you have just registered and you haven't completed whether you are what we call a qualified investor. Now, the definition of a qualified investor varies based upon where you reside. And each country has their own definition of who could invest in such an asset class as private equity in financial technology and crypto companies, or just private equity in general and these types of high risk, high return securities. And so that might be in your country an accredited investor, it might be a professional investor, it might be a sophisticated investor, it might be a high net worth investor, it might be somebody that can demonstrate a certain level of experience. And there's different ways of qualifying for that depending on your country. Now, the way the platform works is that when you register, or if you're already registered and you haven't completed the process, you can click on your investor status. And on your investor status, it will tell you the definition that is relevant to your country of residence, based upon you telling us which country you're from, your identity documents, and also IP addresses of where you're actually logging in and using the platform. And so the qualification criteria is there, and we break this into two different things. One is self-certified, and self-certified means that you have read the definition of a qualifying investor in your country, and you are actually one of those, you do actually meet one of those criterias. And some of them will, for example, a sophisticated investor will ask you to pass a quiz to make sure that you understand what investing in private equity means and the high risk, high return nature of this product. And also that you meet some of the criteria. And if you meet that criteria, then you are what's called a self-certified investor. You have told us that you meet that criteria. The third type, which gives you full access to everything, is what's called a certified investor. And a certified investor means that you have gone to the investor status section on your account, and you have actually uploaded documentation that proves that you meet that criteria. And the criteria, again, is different for each country. So it would be very boring if I went through every single country individually. But Bank to the Future is designed so that it only shows you what's relevant for your country. So, for example, if you're in the US, you might need to upload your proof of assets that meet the criteria that's placed in front of you, or your proof of income via a tax documentation, or maybe some of your financial statements, or a third-party letter from a broker-dealer, a lawyer, an accountant, and we have different criteria attesting that you are an accredited investor. Or if you're from a different country, we've given you a template letter, and you can download that template, look for your country, and you can sign a letter certifying that you do meet the criteria as outlined in that letter. So we try to make it as easy as possible. And all of that we summarize into what's called a qualifying investor. Now, whether you are self-certified or fully certified determines some of the actions that you can take on the platform. And we try to summarize those here. And so these are the three main criteria: the residency and your citizenship, whether you have verified your account, so we know who you are, and whether you are self-certified or fully certified will determine what you see on your account and what you can do on your account. Now, any suggestions you have for how we can make this clearer and better, we will take on board, but have it be known that we're constantly working on improving that, and we do have lots of improvements for our making this as simple and easy to understand as possible, and we recognize that there's always things we can do to improve it, and we've tried to put some of these definitions here. And what we realized when we went through the Telegram chat is that people were asking, well, what is a verified investor? And so when you tell us things like that, we can improve our FAQ, make sure that you reach out to one of our support teams, and we will use that to make things clearer and add some more definitions to help yourself and other people use our platform and understand whether this is right for them or not. And so some of the things that we put here is, for example, one of the first actions is obviously registering. So US investors can register. They will need to onboard through one of our affiliated broker-dealer partners, or if you're not in the US, then you would register with our securities business, depending on your jurisdiction. But in order to comply with anti-money laundering, we do have to restrict certain people from registering, which is sanctioned countries by the US mainly and the EU. And politically exposed people. You will probably know if you are one of those people. If you don't know it, then you probably don't come from one of those countries and you're not a politically exposed person. So you will know if you're one of those people. And if you try to select a country that is sanctioned, then there won't be the option to register. Those are what we have to do in compliance with the rules that we're governed by. The second is whether you can invest in a pitch that is restricted for your country. So the reason we put this is pretty obvious, but some people go to a pitch and they're a little bit upset because they couldn't invest in that. And they say, well, does that mean I can't invest in anything else on Bank to the Future? The answer is no, not necessarily, because what happens is when a pitch goes live on our platform, the pitch team have the option to restrict certain countries that they feel for their own reasons, compliance reasons, they don't want to allow investors in their pitch from that country. And it's almost always compliance reasons that they do that. And so therefore, if that country is restricted and you're from that country, unfortunately, you won't be able to invest in that pitch. But it doesn't mean that you can't invest in other pitches, because not everybody is restricting and they do different models in order to comply with different countries' securities laws. The next thing that we put here is invest in a US 506B pitch. Now that sounds like a load of jargon, but essentially the US has certain rules whereby a pitch could either be a 506B or a 506C pitch when doing what's known as a Reg D offering. Now, you don't need to know all this stuff, because the Bank to the Future platform will only show this to people that are actually allowed to see it based upon your criteria, whether you're self-certified, whether you're fully certified, whether you're verified. And that's why it's important to try and get your account up to the highest levels so that you can see as many opportunities as possible that are open to you. Otherwise, you might not see some of those opportunities. And so just to help you understand, a 506B pitch means that you have to have an established relationship with our platform, which means you've been a member for more than 30 days. You are a self-certified accredited investor, and therefore you can invest in 506B pitches. With 506C pitches, it means you only see that and you're only able to invest if you're a fully certified investor. And that means that they can, the pitch can be reached out a little bit wider, but only certified investors from the US are able to invest. If you're not from the US, then you don't really care about those things unless, but we'll only, we'll make sure that it's in compliance with your local jurisdiction, and you could be self-certified, and the pitch owner could decide that they only want to take on fully certified, depending on what they think the right compliance model is for the country that the company is from. This is one of the challenges that we've been working on over so many years in order to allow for this global online investment platform in compliance with international securities laws. In terms of depositing funds, if you're from the US, we don't allow you to deposit funds. The reason for that is because at the moment, our secondary market is not open to US investors. And you don't need to deposit funds in order to actually invest in either a 506B or 506C pitch. You can actually, the way that our experience is built is that you can simply go to the pitch, find a pitch that you actually like, and when you click to go to the investor page and you click that you'd like to invest further, we have a process whereby you can select the payment option. It could be either invest with Bitcoin, Ethereum, card payment, bank transfer, or other altcoins, or it could be balance that you have. But in the case of US, you don't actually need a balance in order to make that investment. And then you can select that payment offer and you can just enter your card details at that point. That's done with a PCI compliant process for holding card details. I'm sorry if I go through the geeky parts of the regulations, but just been involved in it for so long. And then it will be an escrow account partner, depending on if that is actually required for the type of pitch you're doing. Or it might be an altcoin that then is converted into a different type of coin. Or you can use your Bitcoin or Ethereum, depending on if the pitch is accepting those payment methods. So you don't actually need to have a deposit in order to invest in a pitch. But we restrict it because at the moment, US investors are not able to buy on our secondary market until we look to change that in the future as certain parts change. But at the moment, we're not happy with the process yet. So therefore, we restrict deposits for US investors. But if you're, and then you can see this category about whether you're able to deposit or not. The next is whether you're able to, we've done that one, deposit funds, withdraw funds. And so it goes through the criteria. Obviously, if you're from a sanctioned country, you wouldn't be able to do that because you can't sign up. But it shows you who can actually withdraw funds. And remember, withdrawal of funds. So for example, you might have invested, you're from the US, you've invested in a 506B pitch. You might have received some kind of dividend or exit proceeds. It's not depositing funds. You might have seen some returns and therefore you're able to withdraw those because you would have invested in compliance with the right process for you. Sell shares on the secondary market. US investors, if you invested compliantly in a 506B pitch through one of our affiliated broker dealers, then using the platform, obviously we make this user experience as clean as we can possibly can, then you're restricted to holding those for 1 year before you can actually sell those on the secondary market. But in most cases, others don't necessarily have those restrictions, but we'll let you know because there'll be this option to actually sell that. So when you go to the market, it will tell you whether you can or can't. You have to hold it for a year. You might go to the trade, and therefore it will tell you when this option won't be available to you if you don't have a balance. So we restrict withdrawings. So therefore you won't actually be able to get to that process. Buy shares on the secondary market at the moment, that is restricted to, in order to sell, you're going to have to go through the certification process as well in order to do that, if you haven't been through that already. And then you can see the criteria for buying. At the moment, US investors can't buy through our secondary market, but that you might be able to buy through it depending on your residency and jurisdiction. And you know that because we would allow you to deposit funds. So if you go to your account, you click on the fund section. If the ability to deposit funds is there, then you can, once you have a USD balance by at the moment depositing Tether, in the future you'll be able to do that directly with Bankwire and various other payment methods as we roll out outside of beta and improve this process. Then it will allow you to actually place a buy order in the OTC market to do that. What else have we got here? Apply for finance. We are open to all except for countries where we're restricted from doing that by US and EU sanctions. and list a pitch live. So what tends to happen is if you're looking to raise finance with us, you'd go here to the raise, you'd click the application, and this would then go to our investment committee and pitch management team. We get hundreds of applications, but approximately 1 to 5% of them, depending on the market, will actually go through to having an interview with our pitch management and investment committee, and then we will consider whether no pitch will go live until you've actually worked with us and we've been through the process of working with you on your pitch. So we hope that this is clear. Now, if there's anything unclear about this, then please do either leave a comment here, go to our Telegram group, let us know what you'd like to see, and then we can try and improve it and make it more clear. So that helps, I hope, to help you understand who can actually use BnkToTheFuture.com and why we actually do that, and the restrictions that we're subject to in order to remain compliant and actually have this service available. Now what I'd like to do is switch gears slightly and let you know something that we have announced to our BFT Premium members. And just to help you, just a reminder, a premium member is somebody that owns the Bank to the Future token. And so if you go to CoinMarketCap, there is an ERC20 token called the Bank to the Future token, which we don't actually sell ourselves. You'd have to go buy it from a crypto exchange if you wanted to purchase that. And on a page here, it lists the exchanges that are actually listing the Bank to the Future token. And you can see some of those different exchanges and how liquid they might be by going to CoinMarketCap and looking at BFT. But for those of you that own BFT, all you need to do is go to the fund section of your account and deposit a minimum of 10,000 BFT to your BnkToTheFuture.com account, and you will be a premium member. There is an alternative. You could go to iOS and Android right now and search for the BF wallet in the App Store. And if you download the BF wallet in the App Store, you can connect your BnkToTheFuture.com account to the BF wallet. You need to go through the process, make sure that you meet the criteria, get yourself verified, certified, go through that process. Then when you go to the BF wallet, just click on the button to connect it with your BnkToTheFuture.com account, log in with your BnkToTheFuture.com account details, and you therefore don't need to deposit those BFT into our custodial solution. You can keep it self-custodial, where you actually are the only person that holds the private key on your phone, and you have full control of those, and you can move those in an automated fashion as fast as you want through the cryptocurrency wallet. And so the token moves freely. It's a cryptocurrency. It's an ERC20 token, and you can move that as you choose through the wallet. But if you connect it to your BnkToTheFuture.com account, then you can have the choice of either depositing a minimum of 10,000 BFT to your BnkToTheFuture.com account, or holding it on your wallet and also connecting your wallet to your BnkToTheFuture.com account. And therefore, you become a premium member. Once you're a premium member, you get certain perks. And we've got to get better at communicating this, but very soon we'll make sure that we have a membership tab here. And we're working on communicating and making sure that it's a lot clearer what you get. And we'll try and create a little diagram here so you can see the perks of what you get and make it more seamless so that you can purchase those in an easier way. And any other suggestions that you might like to see that we can put in our queue of things that we'd love to do, but there's only so many hours in the day and there's only so much we can achieve in a compliant and secure way at the same time. Then you get, one of the things you get is you get priority access to all deals listed on BnkToTheFuture.com. And one of the things that we've just announced to our BFT token holders is that our secondary market right now is currently in beta. Qualifying investors can currently buy and sell, subject to the restrictions of who can buy and sell, shares in our Bitfinex SPV. Now, these are not shares in Bitfinex, the company. These are shares in Bitfinex, the SPV. And the SPV is a special purpose vehicle, a company that Bank to the Future operates, and every share in the SPV is backed by one share in Bitfinex, the actual company. And you get a beneficial interest. So if they pay dividends or exit in the future, then you get the entitlement to that, subject to the terms and fees and things that are explained to you when you make a purchase. But right now, this OTC market lists all the people that are looking to buy and people that are looking to sell. And you can purchase, take one of those orders, just like you might do on eBay. And you can do that on a whole order execution basis, as opposed to a full order book, because it's not actually a national stock exchange or anything like that. This is private companies and SPV. Now, we have approximately 10 companies that we have selected that we already own shares in, that will be listing the SPV on our secondary market. And many of those may not be shares that actually were on our primary market. So just to be clear, I understand that there's a lot of jargon here. Primary market means that the company issued new shares. We offered them on BnkToTheFuture.com. Our SPV invested in them, and we allowed our investors to invest into that company. The company received the funding. It was new shares issued by the company. As opposed to the secondary market, which is here, a secondary market means somebody that already owns those shares is selling them to somebody else over the counter via meeting through our platform. And so a secondary market trade means that the company doesn't receive the money. It's the shareholder that owns the shares that is selling them to you, and you enter into an agreement between each other to buy and sell in a what's called an over-the-counter market. And that is what the trade page does, is the secondary market. Now, we've got approximately 10 new deals that we're going to be rolling out once we get out of beta. And in order to qualify for our secondary market, the company has to achieve a certain level of success already. And by success, we mean the type of, Bitfinex is a company that we feel is established a certain level of success already, whereby enough people know about the brand and they've established a market position already. And they're not in that early stage, where they're trying to really establish their brand, and get known by, like it might be on our primary market. Now, remember, once upon a time, all of these household brands that might qualify for trading were all in that same position where nobody really knew them at one point. They were part of our primary market offerings. But now the market has moved on so far, and the market's got mature enough to actually have what we call established companies. And these more established companies will actually be on there. Now, the only way to get access to those deals before they actually launch on our secondary market is to be a BFT premium member. And so for those of you that qualify to invest, that are looking to build a portfolio in some of the most established companies in our industry, then, and by industry, I mean the crypto financial technology industry, then it's a perk of being a BFT premium member and making sure that you've done the verification, certification, deposited the 10,000 BFT. And we recently just released one thing that's really worth keeping out. And again, we recognize that a lot of people may not notice these things. But this section on the blog, we recently, and everything we do, every update we have, we try and release onto the blog once it's ready to be released for public consumption by our qualifying investors. And we give a step-by-step guide here on how to actually become a qualifying investor and how to become a premium member. And you should always follow that. Check out the blog where we put all we put all of our updates. And yes, so what we've announced is that a new perk to the BFT premium members is that you will get access to those deals prior to them launching on our secondary market, so that when they do launch on our secondary market, you can either decide to place an order there for anyone that wants to purchase them from you, or you could decide to hold those anyway, and knowing that they have already qualified to list on our secondary market. The only way you will find out about that is we have a private mailing list for qualifying investors that have been through the verification certification, that have qualified to be a BFT premium member, and have deposited those 10,000, minimum of 10,000 BFT to their account on BnkToTheFuture.com, or have connected their BF wallet to their BnkToTheFuture.com account and hold it on their BF wallet on their mobile device. So that's a new perk that we've just launched, and we're always thinking of new things by which to reward our premium members, and we've got plenty more that we're planning as this industry grows, and also as we start moving more and more into the securities token market, which is we were discussing in video 1 of Bank to the Future and video 2 of Bank to the Future Live, where we were going through the roadmap, how things are changed and what we think is coming next. So I hope that helps you understand more of where we're going. And this Bank to the Future Live broadcast is designed at trying to make things more clear, taking your questions, getting your feedback, and as we learn more about the things you might not have known or you find confusing, then our team can analyze that, try and look at how we can create content and material to make things more clear for you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and check in. Also, just before I do that, I think this is the video here. Please do, it really helps us if you actually click the like button on the video, so that other people, Google's algorithms use how many people like a video in determining how many people see that content. So it really helps us if you like this video. If you comment on the live stream, and we can, in a second, I'm going to get Famida to go through the live questions and some of the other questions from our Telegram community group. Word of warning, please watch out for scam Telegram community groups. If we remember, I'll try and make sure that the Bank to the Future team actually put a link to our official Telegram group in this. And while there are scammers in there as well, everyone wants to try and steal your money in crypto. Please don't end up joining one of the Telegram groups that is purposely created by a scammer, and they're just looking to steal your money as soon as they can. We will never message you trying to ask you to send us BFT or any other token. Everything will happen through the platform, and we will never ask you for money by email or anything like that, or through a Telegram or any other messaging app. So if that happens, this might likely to be a scammer. But also, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel, like this channel, and post any comments you like, because that helps us to make sure that we reach more people that might qualify to be a part of our community. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and you're going to see the infinite screen, I think, while I do that. And we're going to take some questions. So Famida, have we got more people live than we had? As we said, we've only gone live 3 times, and each time we've had more people on the live broadcast, and I expect that to continue. But more people have been watching it afterwards via the recording as opposed to joining us live. But have we got any live questions, or maybe some other questions that came up from elsewhere?
Well, Simon, we have 50 people watching.
Wow, so it's really moving.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Actually, the questions have started flowing in. we do have some previous questions from our last live. So if you don't mind, I'll just go through those ones first.
Okay.
Some of them are quite just not really detailed in what they're asking. So I'm hoping that you're going to be able to delve into it a little bit more. So there's one question here. It says, I wonder how much profit the company has allocated so far.
So what they might be referring to is asking a specific question. Now, this is an area of constant friction at Bank to the Future. Many investors have, are new to maybe new to the investment market. They may not be professional in that they've been investing in private equity for a long time, but they may have become a high net worth investor as a result of being involved in the crypto market early. And therefore, they're more familiar with things like ICOs, which often are not done in compliance with securities laws. And therefore, they're used to just being able to communicate openly anywhere about anything. But unfortunately, the way that it works in our community is very often you might ask a specific question about a specific investment that you made. And we are completely open. We try and provide all the tools to allow you to communicate with the team that made the pitch and also the Bank to the Future team. But questions that are private to investors only have to be done in what we call the investor zone. And so while we can't answer those in Telegram, just simply because we're not allowed to do that, because we could be violating the securities laws if we answer those questions in public. But just to show a little iteration, and again, we'll be redesigning this pitch page, and we've got that in the pipeline, but we used to have a forum section here. Now, when we wanted to launch and move over to our secondary market, we switched formats of our pitches where we weren't really thinking of things as a pitch, but more thinking of things in terms of a company. The reason for that is because a pitch is one funding round, but a company might do multiple funding rounds. And so we had to switch all the pitches to companies, and we moved the forums over to the company page. Now, the user experience is not that great. And oh, sorry, I thought I was sharing my screen. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. That's why I was probably looking at you funny. So this is what I was showing before. So a new pitch is live, or if you're an investor, you can still see that. We used to do everything on a pitch by pitch basis, but now we're doing it on a company basis because they might have funding rounds. And you used to go to the forum here, and therefore that's where all communication around the pitch would happen. But then we found that there was a problem when people did multiple funding rounds, that investors didn't know which pitch to go to. And some investors might be privy to information in one funding round, but not privy to information in another. So we changed it to the company page, and then we moved the forum over here. And we haven't quite completed the user experience to make it seamless. So it's a little bit clunky still. But have it be known, we know these things. And you see this here on the company page. You've got the company info. This discussion means that any member of Bank to the Future, an investor or non-investor, can actually discuss the company here, and it will have live updates. But the investor zone is just for investors. So as I'm not an investor in this company on this account, I can't actually see anything, but all the investors can have this. And this is what we call the investor zone. I think we can make this clear by calling, a bit clearer by making this public discussion or something like that. But anytime you have a specific question about the profitability of a company or anything you want to ask about that company, then the investor zone is the place to do that. We can't start answering it on Twitter. We can't start answering it on Telegram, because by answering it, we either might be violating some of the shareholder agreement, or we might be violating securities laws in that process, which is why we often ask, if you've got questions about that, then go to the investor zone, which is an environment whereby only the right people can see it without us inadvertently breaking some kind of rule. So the long answer to that, let me go back to non-sharing, is that is probably a question unique and specific to a particular company that this person might have invested in. And we suggest go to the investor zone, which is where the pitch team receive a notification about that. Please be patient. These people are busy building companies. They may not be able to get back straight away. But that's the place to ask such a question, and why we can't necessarily go on a YouTube live and start answering confidential shareholder information that might violate a securities law in the process inadvertently.
All right, I think we're going to move on to the next one. I wonder if any of the investments that the company has made have failed.
The answer is yes, and you will know that. So just so you understand, the game of investing in venture capital is that it's high risk, high return, long-term investing. Prior to our secondary market, there's usually no liquid market, and our market isn't exactly a liquid market. It's an OTC order book for investors that want to buy and sell in the deals that are succeeding. So these are still illiquid, high risk, high return investments. And traditional venture capital portfolio theory states that you probably invest, if you invest in 10 companies, one of them will go on to, and again, there's no guarantee that any of them will go on to become a unicorn. But if you pick well and you invest well, then traditionally one of them goes on to be a unicorn. We've had several unicorns on our platform, whether it be a Kraken, some of the other companies that we can't necessarily announce, but will announce in due course when the pricing events happened, or it be a Bitfinex, or some companies that were exited at several multi-millions, like Bitstamp and various others. You would expect the others to eventually go bust, or be a company that never achieves a certain level of success whereby it becomes exitable. And exitable means that another company tries to acquire it, or it goes public, or the management becomes so successful that they end up buying it, or it reaches the secondary market and there's a demand by a buyer to buy your shares on our OTC order book. So yeah, but you will know if a company has gone bust by logging into the portfolio section on the account here. So I'm not going to go through this, but in the account section, you'll see a portfolio. I believe you can do that by clicking here. And in that,
share screen.
yeah, okay. I'm just looking at you weirdly, right? Okay. Let's make sure I'm sharing the screen again. So if you log into your account, all of your investments are actually held in the portfolio. And the portfolio, we know, is really ugly right now. The reason it's really ugly is because we made it all beautiful. And then when we switched to our secondary market and we moved all the pitches over to the companies, rather than wait for every part of our platform to be beautiful again, we just took out certain parts of our platform in order to not delay it, so that we could get started, and then we'll rebuild it. The portfolio section is due a rebuild, whereby it will have nice, pretty pie charts and all the things you need to analyze your portfolio. But when you click on the portfolio, there's something called a latest price, and if the latest price is 0, then you should probably head over to the investor zone for that company, and there will be an announcement on why that company has decided to stop trading, or why it's gone bust, or if it's run out of money or anything. That's where you would find that. The communication will be on the investor zone. And if you look in your portfolio, the latest price will be 0, and you'll notice that the portfolio value for that particular investment is 0. And yes, we have had companies that unfortunately don't make it, and that is to be expected. And when you register on our platform, check out the risk warnings, where we go through, and in a clear way, you agree. And if you take your quiz, we'll let you know some of the risks. And one of those risks is that they run out of money and the company goes bust. So that's that. So let's stop sharing now, and I'll go live again. So to the next question.
All right. The next question here is also, one may wonder what the difference in status of being fully certified, a fully certified investor is versus one that is self-certified. I think you touched on that.
Yeah, so either go back to the beginning of this video if you feel like watching it again, or go to the FAQ, and on the FAQ, there's a question called who qualifies, who can invest, who can use Bank to the Future, something like that. And check out the chart and you can see what a certified versus self-certified investor gets.
Okay. Any simple chart planned for the secondary market, Bitfinex SP, to see the history and how it was performing?
Absolutely. So we have that in the list of things that investors have requested in the next version or upgrade of that, so that we've got the data. At the moment, you requested for us to display the history of the trades. We have now displayed that. And we see no reason why that data can't be used in order to pull it together into a chart, because some people are taking the data themselves and trying to create their own charts, and we have seen that. So we think that's a pretty popular request, and at some point in our roadmap, we'd look to be able to deliver that for you as one of the popular requests.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna start. Well, actually, there are some more questions from the live stream that we did before. It's about BFT. Enough utility for BFT at the moment. Simon, can you please justify the current valuation?
So the valuation is market driven. I'm not here to justify the valuation. We're not here to, if anyone wants to, we're here to create. BFT is a great tool to create utility for our premium members. And the goal at the moment is that the main thing that we see as the great use case once we get out of beta is that those, I'm just going to do my share screen thing again. One of the uses with us, and again, it's an ERC20 token that trades on other people's exchanges, so it can be used as people want to use it. But in terms of how to use it with Bank to the Future, we see ourselves, and if you look at something like, we talked about this in the last Bank to the Future Live, Binance has created a very interesting economy around their token. It's one of the most successful cryptocurrency exchanges. And they allow people to get 50%, well, they allow people to get discounts. Sorry if that's not the terms, I'm not sure the specific terms, but they allow people to get discounted trading fees when they pay with the BNB token. And so they created a top cryptocurrency because they became a very successful exchange and people started to use it. We see that we're looking at Bank to the Future to try and achieve some of the success, but around the securities token and equity market, which is a very different market to the cryptocurrency market. And we see the Bank to the Future token as integrated into all we do. Looking to create utility for that in all that we do. At the moment, when we launched our secondary market into beta, when you go to the trade page, I think everyone can see my screen right now. If you go to place a trade and you look to either sell or buy some of those shares, so let's say that you're looking to sell, then you'll notice this little button here, whereby if you pay your fee with BFT, then you get a 50% discounted trading fee. And so the more that we list on our secondary market as we go out of beta, and the more that people want to buy and sell OTC in the most successful companies in crypto, we've noticed that 65% of all the people that have placed a trade so far have elected to pay that token with BFT. And so really that's one way in which we're finding as a good use case at the moment for those using the Bank to the Future token, as well as their premium membership, to actually use it in order to get 50% discount on those trading fees. And so that's what we're focused on right now. In terms of our roadmap, we discussed it in video 2 of Bank to the Future. We're looking at doing voting platforms for when we get more deeper into the securities token market, and also looking at the securities token exchange as the securities token market becomes something that might be, proves itself as an industry as we evolve and iterate out. And that was the main purpose for us iterating out into the BF wallet. And I'm going to go back to my face.
Okay. So this is actually a kind of frequently asked question every now and then in BF support. It's about the minimum investment requirement. So why is it so high, if you can explain?
Well, we don't consider it high. We consider it low if you are a qualifying investor. It is designed to make sure that we're only dealing with qualifying investors. And most people that want to build a diversified portfolio would find that as a low sum in order to build a diversified portfolio. And if somebody is investing and considers that high, then that's an indicator that they might not actually be a qualifying investor, and therefore we have to look into that account. So it's mainly around what we think is a reasonable sum in order to ensure that we're only dealing with qualified investors, as opposed to people that haven't reached a stage where they qualify to invest.
All right, another frequently asked question that we get in BF support is about Bitcoin Capital 1, 2, and 3. And basically, is it possible to sell these companies after having invested in them?
So again, this is one for the investor zone, because I can't discuss investing outside of the investor zone. But for those of you that can see the publicly available information, the way that Bitcoin Capital 1, 2, and 3 is that all returns are paid through dividends. And it owns shares in some of the most, more successful deals, and some of them that have failed as well. And the details are all on the assets tab. So I head over to the investor zone, and we provide that there where you can ask that question, and we can remind you of exactly how returns are made, as opposed to being able to do that. But remember, for those that invested, there are restrictions in transferability on the particular product in order to remain compliant with those securities laws. So that's a discussion, I'd say, for the investor zone in those particular areas.
Great. Okay, so I have a question here about BFT entry point. So could you explain what entry point BFT investors get access to, what you define as the primary round compared to institutional round prices, e.g. perhaps use the ton offering you did? Yeah.
Tricky question. Sounds like specific. So remember, BFT is available on cryptocurrency exchanges, and people use that for the utility. Now, when it was originally sold, it was done as an investment contract that gave you entitlement to the token in the future, and therefore was only available to qualifying investors on BnkToTheFuture.com. Now, what I think he's referring to is, firstly, utility tokens, token sales are becoming less of a thing, and people tend to be moving over to security tokens at the moment. But how do we determine what level do we get and what price we do on BnkToTheFuture.com? And the answer to that is that we tend to at Bank to the Future, and not always, it depends whether we can get access to a certain deal or not. But what we tend to do is all of our deals, most of our deals on BnkToTheFuture.com have already had an institutional venture capital investor invest in the round. Now, many people, sometimes someone will come to us, they'll apply for finance. Let me go over to share screen again. They'll apply for finance and they may not have an institutional investor. And most of the time, we won't take on that deal. On rare exceptions, we might lead the deal, but we might introduce them to institutional investors that are professional venture capitalists. And if they would then negotiate the terms of the deal, so they would have applied around here, we think it's a deal, but we would like a venture capitalist to actually price the deal. So we'll introduce them to some of our investor venture capitalist community that would look to lead such a deal. And then we would only list it on BnkToTheFuture.com once the venture capitalist has negotiated the terms, and we would look to co-invest on identical terms. And that's pretty much how we determine the valuation of most of the deals. The entrepreneur would set the terms. The professional venture capitalist institutional investor would then negotiate the terms. If they put their cold hard cash into it, then we would look to co-invest on the same terms. And then that would be a syndicate that we would put through at BnkToTheFuture.com. Sometimes we might be, depending on the bull or bear market. So right now we have good access to good companies and good deals because we're in a bear market. In the bull market, when everybody was investing in our industry, the companies might be able to select investors, and we do all we can to make sure that we get invited to deals that our investors wouldn't necessarily get invited to because we've got connections and we're constantly networking in the industry. But sometimes in a bull market, we may not be able to get access to those deals. And therefore, in the example of Telegram, we weren't able to get access to the first round, but we were able to get access to the second round, and they did different terms and different things. Our goal is to try and always get the best terms we can possibly get. But sometimes in the bull market where there's a frenzy, like there was in 2017, I'm not sure if we're going to experience that again, then we may not have been able to get the access to that. So our job is to disclose the terms of any previous deals and allow people to co-invest on the terms of the current deal. And so example in Telegram was an example where we could only get access to the second round as opposed to the first round. So I think that answers the question, and I'm going to move over to camera. How are we doing in terms of time? We want to stick this to the 1 hour.
Yeah, it's actually just gone over 1 hour. We do have a few more questions, but it's totally up to you whether you want to answer them.
Okay, well, do you want to just pick one more question and we can save the rest for next week?
Sure. I think this one might be a bit heavy loaded, but let's go with it. Isn't it trivial to create a derivative of a STO token that is non-compliant?
Is it trivial? This is an interesting question. Let me try and get into that. Is it trivial to create an STO token of a what, sorry?
Isn't it trivial to create a derivative of a STO token that is non-compliant?
Yes, the answer is you could certainly create a STO token, a derivative of an STO token, but if you don't comply with securities laws, then whoever creates that derivative is at risk of going to prison. So it's trivial to create it, to not go to prison or get in trouble for violating securities laws might be the challenge there. I think I've understood the question, but yeah, it's trivial to create it, but if you want to break the law, getting away with it, that's not something I can advise on, or advise or recommend anyone to try and do.
All right. There is one more question. Have you figured out a way to offer 2FA to more than one device? Or I guess it's an app question.
Let me put that to the dev team. I believe that that you could do that right now, but please don't take me. Please don't take this because I think it's a more technical question. But because I use 2FA a lot, when you create 2FA on our platform, you can create backup codes. And if you use that code, I believe that you could enter that code on multiple devices, or I believe that you could log in and on the 2FA page, scan the QR code on more than one device. And I believe that would work, but you'd need to test it out. I believe that would be one that we'd have to put to our dev team. So thank you for that suggestion. 2FA is a real problem, and I know that people like to have 2FA on more than one device in case that they lose their phone and at least they can access it. But there is a backup in that if you no longer have access to your phone, then you can submit a support ticket, and we will go through a process of verifying that you are who you say you are. You need to do things like take a selfie of yourself and hold up a piece of paper with today's date and send it from an email that's connected to your account, and various other things to ensure that you're not a scammer. And our support team will do what they can to deactivate the 2FA, and then you can start again if that happens. So it's not going to be a nice process. It's not going to be an easy process, but there is a way of starting again if you contact our support team. So thanks a lot, Famida, and I think that was great and insightful to get your questions. I'm glad that more people are actually attending the live broadcast, but please do like, subscribe, hit the bell button so you get the notification, and let us know either in the comments below this video or in our Telegram community what you'd like to see in future broadcasts. Some ideas that were already put to us is going through each week. Some of our portfolio companies might have press releases and new information around some of the things they're doing. Maybe we could round up some of the news that some of our portfolio companies have made public and how they're actually making an impact into the growth of the future of finance and technology. So if you've got more suggestions, let us know. We're here to improve. We don't get things right all the time, but we're here. We've been around for a while, and we always try and take this feedback to dictate how we move forward. So Famida, thank you for pulling out those questions. Thanks to everyone that attended live, and we'll see you on the next episode of Bank to the Future Live.